So it's for Thursday now that I'm catching up. Um, so the last couple of days we've read Don Quixote, our friend Don Quixote, decided that he was going to become a knight, takes his old horse, and he goes on the road. He doesn't tell anybody, he's just gone. And he gets to an inn, a hotel, and he says, "Oh, this is a castle and princesses, and the innkeeper is the lord." And he gets the guy to dub him and make him a knight. And he gets in a fight with the mule drivers because they're touching his stuff. And then he like starts to head out of the inn, and it's just before sunup. So he's been up for like 2 days, which would make him maybe tired and a little bit even kookier than he normally is. We also went over, so before that we read this, we went over all the vocabulary, which is in the classroom as well. So we are on chapter 3, the price of meddling. And meddling was one of our words, and it means kind of just getting into people's business. Don Quixote was going back home mostly because of a conversation he and the innkeeper had had before the dubbing ceremony. "Tell me, Sir Knight, how much money do you have with you?" the innkeeper asked. "I beg your pardon, my lord, I carry none," Don Quixote answered. "It is not the custom of knights in armor to carry money with them. No book about knighthood I ever read mentions it." "Oh, Sir Knight, it is too obvious a matter to be mentioned. All knights carry money. Believe me, it is a necessity," the innkeeper said with great feeling. Though he would not say it, the innkeeper was worried about not being paid. But he liked to joke too, so he continued, "When I was young, I myself was interested in becoming a knight. I also know that knights carry a change of clothes and a small first aid kit." He paused for a second and added, "You, like all knights in armor, should have a squire to be your helper and companion." Don Quixote, with his fantasy-filled mind, didn't find a hidden meaning in the conversation, or see if the innkeeper was making fun of him. As he rode along, he was planning to follow the innkeeper's advice to the letter, which means exactly. Suddenly, Don Quixote heard cries coming from the nearby bush. They sounded like a person's moans, and moans they were. A boy of about 15 was tied to a tree. Naked from the waist up, he was being hit with a leather belt by a man. Don Quixote stopped to see what was wrong, and he learned that the man was a rich farmer and the boy tended one of his flocks of sheep. The farmer was punishing the boy for not doing his job right, or so he said. Don Quixote learned the man owed the boy some back pay, so he figured out how much it was, and menacing or threatening the man with his lance, he ordered the farmer to pay what he owed. "Fine, Sir Knight, I am ready to pay, but I have no money with me," the farmer said. "Andrew should come home with me to get his money." And to Andrew he said, "Please do come with me, brother." "So you see, young man, everything will be fine," Don Quixote told Andrew. "Oh, no, Sir Knight," Andrew replied. "My master will skin me alive first." "Young man," Don Quixote said, "your master has given his word, and I trust that he will keep it. If he doesn't, I'll come back and make him regret it, and he'll have to pay double." Don Quixote left him thinking that the farmer and everyone else was as honorable as himself. But soon as he was out of their sight, the beatings became twice as hard. "Ha, ha, ha! Go get your savior, Andrew!" the farmer taunted, and Andrew wished the well-meaning gentleman had not meddled. Meanwhile, Don Quixote met other people further up the road, some merchants and their servants, so like store people. The knight planted himself in the middle of the road, challenging every one of those knights to fight one by one or in a group. "We are peaceful people, sir. We are merchants. We are not knights," they said. "You are cowards who don't want to face a lone knight. That's what you are," he taunted. One of the servants threw a stone at Don Quixote, and many more stones followed. And a very bruised Don Quixote, this side, fell flat on the ground. He couldn't move an inch, but he didn't feel sorry for himself, not for 1 minute. He knew that all knights in armor had a little bad luck now and then, and to pass the time he began to sing old ballads or songs and romances he remembered. As luck would have it, a neighbor of his was traveling the same road on business. After removing some of the armor and grime, the man recognized Don Alonso and decided to take him back to town. There was quite a stir at home. Before Don Alonso had become Don Quixote, he had two good friends, the village priest and the village barber. That evening, the priest and the barber came to the house. The niece and the housekeeper needed to be comforted, and they also needed to figure out how to find the missing person. Oh, why didn't I tell you about those cursed books of knighthood? Asked the housekeeper over and over. And the niece, I peeked through the keyhole a couple of times. Uncle was stabbing the wall. Killing giants is what he said. I know those books drove him crazy. I know it. I'm sure we should have done something about those hateful books. But before they could do anything, the neighbor entered with the missing knight in tow. Don Quixote didn't know who they were or where he was. He said a giant had beaten him up, and everyone's firms were confused now. He had lost his senses, no doubt about it. They put him to bed, fed him, and took care of his bruises. He kept singing his ballads until he fell asleep. The next morning, while their friend was still asleep, the priest and the barber returned. The two of them helped the women burn the books. They tossed the valuable books into the courtyard and made a huge bonfire with them. Then they agreed to tell him, if he asked, that a wizard came in a smoke cloud and took all the books. He did ask, and that's what he was told. After the books were burned, they thought everything would go back to normal. How mistaken they were. And then we started chapter 4. So Don Quixote and Sancho Panza have some strange adventures. The next 2 weeks were rather quiet at home. The priest and the barber spent long hours chatting with their friend, just as they had in the good old days. Everyone thought the insanity was gone now. What no one knew was that sometime during those days, Don Quixote had talked to a neighbor, who's usually a sensible man, and filled his head with crazy ideas. His name was Sancho Panza. He was short and stout, which means kind of fat. A simple man who did not know how to read and write, and Sancho is a poor farmer with a wife, a son, and a daughter. He loved his family and worked hard, but now his neighbor, who did know a lot, was promising great things if Sancho went traveling with him. In the old days, Don Quixote said, knights won islands and kingdoms. They gave them to their squires to govern. I plan to do the same with you, Sancho, if you become my squire. Sancho thought this over and over. An island to govern, he said to himself. I'd be rich. I'll never have anything if I stay home and work nonstop for the rest of my life. I can send money to my family from the island. So it was that late one night, without saying goodbye to wife or children, niece or housekeeper, the two adventurers left unnoticed. Don Quixote was again on his Rocinante. Sancho rode the only mount he had, a grayish donkey he called Rusio because of its color. On his master's advice, the squire had taken big saddlebags full of food and other provisions. They rode all night and stopped only at dawn when they were sure they couldn't be found. Sancho's mind was fixed on one thing, that island. How long would it be in coming, he wanted to know. It could be sometime, anytime, maybe within 6 days, his master said. On the road again after a while, they caught a glimpse of 30 or 40 windmills, a common sight in those parts. Don Quixote thought it was wonderful. Look yonder, Sancho, there are 30 or more monstrous giants. I shall engage them in fierce combat, and when I win, Sancho, we'll be on our way with riches with the spoils. What giants, your grace? Asked Sancho. Those yonder, with the long arms, his master replied. But, your grace, they're not giants, they're windmills, Sancho warned. There's no arms, just the sails going in the wind. It is crystal clear, Sancho, that you don't know what you're saying, Don Quixote affirmed. If you are afraid, stand to the side. Let me fight them alone. Master, they're windmills, Sancho repeated urgently. They're not giants, master. They are windmills. Windmills! The knight didn't hear his squire's urgent cries. He rushed towards the windmills, challenging and insulting the big white things all the while. Just then the wind blew and the sails began to go around. You don't frighten me, he told him. At Rocinante's fastest gallop, he charged and lanced a sail. The wind made the sail go furiously. Horse and knight were flung to the ground far afield. Sancho rushed to help him. God in heaven, didn't I tell you, master, they're windmills? Hush, Sancho, my friend. Matters of war, more than others, are subject to change, Don Quixote told him. It was my old enemy, the wizard Friston, who turned the giants into windmills. He did not want me to win. May it be the Almighty's will, said a resigned Sancho as he helped his master ride and mount poor, bruised Rocinante. So you see here his lance is stuck in the sail, and so the wind went really, really fast, and then it flung him off, and the horse went one way, and he went the other way, and that's where we left off. Any work for this is, again, in our classroom, and I will see you for Friday.